Time for Trivia Tracks with yours truly, Price Robertson, sponsored by Beth Smith and Edward Jones and ProMed Ambulance Services. July 14th, 1984. A date that will live in infamy in the minds of wrestling fans all across the South. Black Saturday, as it's come to be known, refers to the day when Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation took over the time slot on Superstation WTBS, as it was then called, that had been home to Georgia Championship Wrestling and its flagship weekly program, World Championship Wrestling, for 12 years. McMahon's purchase led to a long-standing rivalry between himself and WTBS owner Ted Turner, who later bought GCW successor Jim Crockett Promotions and formed his own company under the World Championship Wrestling name. GCW's first weekly television series had premiered on then WTCG in 1972, when Turner purchased the rights to air the program from station WQXI. From that date, GCW's program aired for 2 hours every Saturday night. In 1976, GCW became the first NWA territory to earn a national cable TV contract, as the soon-to-be renamed Superstation WTBS began to be carried by various cable and satellite providers nationwide. In 1982, GCW renamed its weekly program World Championship Wrestling, a name the entire promotion would grow to be identified by. Jack and Gerald Briscoe had major stakes in the organization, while Ole Anderson was head booker and was basically in charge of operations. GCW's program was hosted by NWA announcer Gordon Soley, who also hosted programs for various other NWA-affiliated promotions at the time. The World Championship Wrestling program promoted the wrestling style of wrestling, which emphasized a more athletic product and put less emphasis on cartoonish gimmicks. Then, in 1983, Vince McMahon, who promoted the cartoonish gimmicks that were commonplace in WWF and who had begun to expand his promotion nationwide, took control of the other major cable television contract at the time when he purchased Southwest Championship Wrestling's Sunday morning time slot via USA Network for its All-American Wrestling program. The following year, in addition to the cable contract and his nationally syndicated offerings, McMahon expanded further by premiering Tuesday Night Titans on USA. Later in 1984, McMahon decided that, as part of its continued expansion, the WWF needed a second national cable outlet for its weekly programming. The only other national cable deal available was the one GCW had with WTBS. If McMahon was able to acquire this time slot, he would control all nationally televised professional wrestling in the country. Consequently, he approached Turner with an offer to buy the Saturday night GCW time slot, only for Turner to reject him out of hand. McMahon, undeterred, tried to find another way of securing the slot for the WWF. He discovered that method shortly after his rejection by Turner. McMahon approached the Briscoe brothers and Jim Barnett, the fourth owner of the company, and discussed a potential sale. All three men agreed to sell their stakes in GCW to McMahon, giving the WWF the controlling stake in GCW and McMahon access to the Saturday night time slot. The last World Championship Wrestling program under GCW control aired on July 7, 1984. 1 week later, show co-host Freddie Miller introduced McMahon and welcomed the WWF to TBS. Gordon Soley was absent for reasons never made clear. McMahon promised the GCW fans that they would enjoy his new program just as much. However, unlike World Championship Wrestling, the WWF's TBS show at first consisted solely of highlights from the WWF's USA Network and syndicated programming, as well as house show clips from most of the major arenas it did business in. This was in direct violation of the promise McMahon had made at the time of the purchase to provide original programming for TBS, including having shows taped at the TBS studios. Finally, on March 2, 1985, the WWF began airing in-studio matches while changing the name of the program to WWF Georgia Championship Wrestling, co-hosted by Freddie Miller, who served as ring announcer and play-by-play commentator Gorilla Monsoon. Along with these matches, Miller handled the interviews. These programs lasted only 5 weeks. The WWF show on TBS was a ratings disaster from the start. Viewers were angry, thousands of complaints were received, and Turner himself was furious by the sinking ratings and made 2 decisions that would fix the ratings problem. First, he made an offer to Bill Watts, the brains behind Mid-South Wrestling in Oklahoma, to take a Sunday afternoon time slot on TBS. He also entered into negotiations to bring Championship Wrestling for Georgia to the station on Saturday mornings with Gordon Soley as announcer. McMahon was not happy with either of Turner's decisions, thinking his control of GCW would make the WWF the exclusive wrestling company on TBS. Both Mid-South and the Georgia promotions outdid the WWF in the ratings. Turner's decision to give time slots to Bill Watts and Ole Anderson indirectly led to other wrestling organizations gaining national cable TV contracts, like Vern Gagne's AWA, airing its matches for ESPN, which did the same thing with WCCW and GWF, Herb Abrams' UWF Fury Hour on Sports Channel America, and ECW on TNN.
Till next time, I'm Price Robertson. Join me for Trivia Tracks, weekdays on Everybody's Country, Y95.